Every civilization has sensed it, an ending that was written long before it arrived. But only one man, 14 centuries ago, described it with precision. Not in vague poetry, not in metaphor you could explain away. In historical events, named, dated, in sequence. The Prophet, peace be upon him, described a creature called the Beast of the Land. It would emerge in the end of times, a power unlike any before it, spreading by land, leaving nothing standing. In the 13th century, Genghis Khan rose from the steppes. Within 2 generations, his empire stretched from the Pacific to the doors of Europe. Baghdad, the intellectual capital of the Islamic world, was reduced to ash. The Tigris ran black with ink from its libraries, then red with blood. The Hadith speaks of the sun rising from the west, and scholars who read prophecy through the lens of symbolism identify this not as a reversal of physics, but as a reversal of civilizational power. For centuries, the East had held the light of science, medicine, and philosophy. Then, slowly, irresistibly, the light shifted. The Renaissance, the age of discovery. European powers pouring from their shores, west, east, north, south, bearing flags and claiming continents. The wall, the scholars say, had been breached. Gog and Magog had been released. The Qur'an, the Bible, and the Hadith all speak of Gog and Magog, Yajuj wa Majuj. Nations from the north, nations of overwhelming force, who would pour from every elevated place and consume the world. For 4 centuries, European nations claimed everything they could reach. Then, in 1939, one descended like lightning itself. The Hadith says Gog and Magog would drink the waters of Lake Tiberias until the last of them said, "There was once water here." Nazi Germany occupied Greece, the direct heir of Byzantine Christian civilization, and drained it of everything. Food, industry, gold, currency, until nothing was left but hyperinflation and famine. The Hadith says they reached Jerusalem and shot their arrows at the sky, declaring war on heaven itself. But even before the war, in the chaos of 1917, something else had risen. The Prophet, peace be upon him, described the Dajjal with terrifying precision. The Dajjal's trial, the Prophet warned, would be the greatest trial humanity would ever face. Communism reached into every nation, every continent. Its ideology penetrated universities, governments, armies, and families. It demanded absolute faith and killed those who refused. The Hadith says the dajjal, when it finally sees Jesus, melts like salt in water. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 exposed every structural weakness of the Soviet system. From that moment, slowly, irreversibly, it began to melt. The Hadith describes Jesus, peace be upon him, descending at the white minaret in eastern Damascus, saffron robes, hands upon the wings of angels. The scholars who read this symbolically ask, what power entered the Muslim world from the West in November 1942? The saffron robes, a symbol of immense wealth and power. The angels whose wings he rests upon, the events that forced America out of isolation, Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, Germany and Italy's declarations of war, and the fragrance of his breath, which killed every disbeliever it reached, was the moral narrative that America carried into battle. The narrative that stood against fascism, racism, and the new religion of racial supremacy. The Hadith says Jesus will break the cross, and church authority over politics declined sharply under American cultural influence after 1945. He will end the jizya, and the United Nations Charter established universal equality among all peoples and nations. He will kill the swine, and Japanese imperialism, which had claimed to liberate Asia while plundering it, was crushed by American military power. After the Great Wars ended, the Hadith speaks of a new era, not of violence, of comfort. A cool wind from Syria, a soft breeze from Yemen, softer than silk. These winds would wrap the world in prosperity, and they would quietly take the soul of every person who still had goodness in them. But along the way, 3 signs arrived. Three landslides, east, west, Arabian Peninsula, in sequence, as described, and the power that had once rebuilt the world after its greatest war began to unmake the rules it had written. The Hadith says, when the wicked nations act like donkeys in heat, without foresight, chasing dominance for the pleasure of dominance, that is when the hour draws near. Ten signs were written. 9 have arrived. The beast, the sun from the west, the dajjal, Gog and Magog, the descent, the smoke. 3 landslides. 1 remains. A fire from Yemen, from the lower regions of Aden, that will drive all people toward the final gathering place, moving when they move, stopping when they stop. This sign, says the scholar, has not yet come.